Hi, this is Cathy for TransByDef, and this week our topic is what steps did you use in transition, and discuss what happened when you bogged down and needed to jumpstart your transition again. Well, I would like to go to the first part of the question first, and that's talk about the steps that I went through to transition. The first step, which I think is very important, is recognizing that you're transgender. In my case, someplace around the time I was in junior high school, I realized that I enjoyed being a woman, and I would dress up as a woman. When I tried to tell my mother that, she got counseling for me. When I was in college and tried to transition in the early 70s, I was totally slammed for trying to do it and decided I would just have to stay a man and suffer for the rest of my life. So I went on with life. When I jumped way forward to my mid-50s, and about 6 or 7 years ago, I had continued to cross-dress or to dress as a woman and feel good while I was dressing as a woman for a long time. When the internet first came into being, I began to watch some of the people who were on there, people like Greshno, people like Steffi, and realized that it was possible and that I was not alone in my feelings, and so that I could transition. After listening to the advice of some of the people who were on the internet, I realized that the first major step that I had to take was going and finding me a good gender therapist. Well, I called down to the Houston Transgender Center and asked them if they could recommend somebody, and they recommended me a very fine woman to be my transgender therapist. And I visited with her about 3 or 4 months, and one day she asked me, she said, "Are you ready to really start transitioning?" I said, "I have been ready for a long time." That's when I went to the second step of starting to take hormones, and she sent me to a good endocrinologist. Now, I emphasize that the first thing you need to do is go and see a good counselor and psychologist and discuss the way you feel with them. Then that person will recommend you go and see a endocrinologist and get you the hormones that you need. So I took the next big step, which was to go and see the endocrinologist to have the blood work done and to begin my transition. I really wasn't sure because I was married, had a daughter, and had a job where I wasn't sure they would let me transition. The next phase, after being on hormones for about a year, I told my wife that I had to come out, I had to be the woman that I was inside. That was the hardest step of my entire transition, of telling my wife and my daughter that I was transgender and that I had a transition. Then I went and started to work on the name change paperwork, and I had listened to a number of videos on the internet and knew that I had to go get a court order and then one by one go through after I had my court order name change and change all the paperwork. If I had to do that step over again, I would go get me a good attorney and pay him to go through all that paperwork and do it right, because I made lots of little stupid mistakes in changing my name on different things, which slowed the whole process down. Maybe it was for my own good, but if I had to do over again, I would seek professional help in that step as well. The next thing, which was the big step, was come out to my employer. And in coming out to my employer, I had to talk both to my boss and to the people in human resources. And I think by far the second worst conversation I had was dealing with my boss. And the third would have to go to the people who were over in human resources. Neither one really understood and really knew what to do. So we kind of stumbled through that process, which was hard, and that was a very big step. The next step is deciding whether you want to have the surgeries. I have decided that I do not want to have any surgery, that I am just comfortable with retaining my male genitalia the way it is. What hormone therapy has done is reduce the size of my male genitals and render them basically unfunctionable as far as a male is concerned. At my age, there were also some health concerns with the surgery, which kind of made that decision a little bit easier. And so that was, as far as I was concerned, a major major decision that I had to make concerning my transition. The last thing that I would like to talk a little bit about when it comes to decisions that you have to make and steps in transition is the big step of always staying true to your course of wanting to transition. I realize that if you get into the early stages and realize that's not for you, then you need to detransition. But when things don't go right in your life, the next big step is saying, I am going to continue to be true to myself, and I'm going to continue to live as the person that I feel inside, despite how bad things really get. So that's what I feel is an important part of an important step, is the continual step that I face each day of having to take disappointments and comments and other things which hurt and go on without being tempted to detransition. And you hear a lot of young ladies talk about the problem with that situation. Well, let's go to the last part of the question, which I'm not going to spend as much time on, and that is, what do you do when your transition stalls? The only thing that I know to do, having been stalled from age 12 or 13 when I first asked my mother about it and went to the psychologist up till I was in my late 50s, is that you have to keep in mind that you are a woman and you are always looking for a way to fill that dream. And I really feel that my finding the transgender community online and listening to the people who were there discussing their transition gave me the courage to unstick my transition and to make me feel as a much more positive person and feel like the person I want to be. Well, those are my comments today on what are the steps of transition and what do you do when it stalls. If you have any comments, please leave them in the box below. Again, let me remind you that I am on the road and it is sometimes difficult for me to get to all the places I need to answer comments, but I will as soon as I can. I thank you for joining me. I hope to see you again next week. Bye.